start to talk about it. Approval not required is you would do a subdivision. If we wanted to subdivide it, then we would subdivide it and put in a road and another road to kind of connect into the subdivision. Approval not required means that you could sell them as individual lots, and that would streamline the zoning part considerably. And then if we wanted to put restrictions in, we would do it as part of the RFP process. And I think, Rich, to be honest, probably the way to do this would be, I'll take a stab at trying to put together some kind of RFP. I like the idea of green. I like the idea of trying to utilize the anchor tenant, which is really Casella, that's up there, and try to craft something on that and just kind of give food for thought for folks to kind of then hash out. But I think to the point that was made earlier, that I think the council, once they approve that RFP and is on board with it, then when a company comes in, complies with all the requirements, then the council has to be prepared to say, good to go.
But to George's point, I think that's a gamble.
You're one of 9.
I'm one of 9.
You guys need to decide.
Personally, what I would want to see, Chris, is I still don't have a sense of what our game plan is. You said you're going to sit down with Nick and a couple of the other department heads and brainstorm and put an RFP together. I would like to see a document that lays out what the process is going to be for us, so the council can understand what steps we're going to take to get this industrial park up and running. Yeah. At this time, you told me tonight we're going to have an RFP. Is that the final step in the process, or is that the first step in the process? If it's the first step in the process, what's the second? What's the end of the process? I don't have a good feel for what that is right now.
Sure. What I can do, Rich, I can get the copy of the procurement law that kind of lays out the process that I'll need to follow in order to sell off the property. And
but that's not even the complete. When I think of the process, Chris, I'm thinking, we could do this RFP. Then there's George's idea of creating this sort of independent entity. Now you said that's going to take time to create something like that if we want to go down that route. But I would like to see some options there. If we follow George's idea, it's going to take us, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I want to see what our options are. I don't want to be, led by the nose down the path of we're going to issue an RFP. I'd like to, Pam's probably more familiar with it than anyone here, but I'd just like to see what options are on the table.
The problem with that is, I'm the town manager here in the community, and I can do what guidance and responsibilities I have. I can't materialize a private sector entity to form and take on this project. So unless there was a private entity that's out there, or an indication that there's a private entity that's going to form to oversee it, my area's responsibility go within the bounds of the municipal corporation that is the town of Southbridge.
But that might be a dead end on the chart, Chris. You say we can't do this because it has to be a private group of people. But my concern is, okay, we have RFP, that's one option. We have George's idea, that's another option. Are those the only 2 options available to us? Are there other options that we can use to develop this industrial park? And I guess that's one of the reasons I wanted to take the trip to New Bedford. And there was the guy in New Bedford also mentioned the other park that was closer to Boston.
Yeah, the one in Taunton.
You might want to take a trip over there. I don't want to. It's late in the process in one sense, but it's also early in the process where, I'm not sure, the right thing to do is commit to one way of developing this industrial park right now, since we don't know what the proposal is.
Well, the thing is, you want some design review, or you want some design laws written into the zoning. The zoning board is going to have to get on top of that. They're going to have to come to the town council to get it approved. So you guys are going to be involved in the process from the get-go. You shoot it down to town council, it isn't going anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Good, I'm sorry.
I'll wait till you're done. I just was saying yes,
okay.
Exactly.
So if you want this thing to get started, planning board, we can develop for an industrial park, an overlay, but we can say, okay, instead of having so much frontage and so much depth, or you need a minimum of an acre, we can say, okay, for up there, you're going to need 2.5 acres, or whatever. But you right now have to get on the zoning board and say, hey, this is what we want to do. You get started on your thing, bring it to the town council. You task us saying, we want minimum lot size, we'll do our thing, bring it to the town council, you vote on it, okay? You're the end entity here, not us, okay? So, I mean, tell us what you want, and we'll do
Well,
it.
that's why we wanted to invite
Well-
members of the zoning board.
Yeah.
The planning
Oh,
board.
hold on a second, Sandy. I think-
Well, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a couple of things here too. There's so many factors that come into play here. Like, one thing, I heard the town manager mention that the anchor up there is Casella. And you're ignoring one of the biggest assets this town has that really should be considered the main anchor. And that's that municipal general aviation airport. Because there's a lot of things that are out there. You're talking distribution warehouses, Federal Express, where they fly parts, you know, there's all kinds of things in that regard. However, when you look at the planning concept and aspects of things, you also have two uses that are inherently incompatible together, and that is Casella and the airport, because it's within 1,000 feet of the air operations area. So that means that there has to be a significant compatibility use plan for those two entities to see how, because anything that you bring in that could cause interference with the operation of the airport is going to cause the demise of something, either that particular industry coming in or looking at closing down the airport, God forbid.
And George may want to sell it.
Yeah, and selling off some of the buffer zone would limit then any potential redevelopment of the airport. Now, we talked about earlier about the redevelopment's authorities access into the airport is your instrument that gets the redevelopment authority in. Because that's an existing infrastructure that you can look at redeveloping aspects of it from just general aviation support and everything, see how you can move it towards commercial, some type of commercial aviation facility. So, but you can't do that without some type of significant planning that kind of goes back and looks at it. And if we had a master plan or a process for a master plan, then that kind of would address some of those issues. So I thought I'd add that to the table.
Sandy?
Well, I was just going to say that the planning board can make, the planning board would make recommendations. The town council would vote on those recommendations. And the other thing that I was going to say earlier is just to keep in mind that we were told that the covenants and the somewhat restrictive aspects of that industrial park were designed to bring in more money and better tenants, and according to him, that worked. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And he did tell us that quality sells.
Yeah, and he said that more than once too.
And that's why I was amazed that the towns were, you know, giving them money to plant flowers and stuff. I couldn't imagine it happening in Southbridge. You know, give me $50,000 to landscape. So, George?
First, I'd like to say is the Airport Commission has no intention at all of giving up any land that would potentially put its ability to expand as a general aviation airport. Back in 1996, when the landfill, the town first put the landfill up there, they, by doing that, potentially limited the ability of the airport extending itself into beyond what it is today by putting that landfill up there back in 1996. And then with the federal government and the FAA making exemptions to the law of exempting landfills that were in by airports exempt from some of the regulations that were there prior to the year 2000, also potentially limited the ability of the airport to extend. Now, not only does that play into the potential problem of extension of the airport, is the fact that we border close to the town of Charlton. And that the town of Charlton and the property owners around the town of Charlton that live in Charlton that have land that is potentially beneficial to them as an industrial park on the Route 20 end of things could impact the airport and its expansion. So we are presently in the process of planning a runway extension